remember in 8th grade going to my friend's house. I remember when I realized for the first time they were different. They didn't have a TV in their living room. All they had was some understated furniture, some old furniture to sit on, a fireplace, and a piano. And then later on, they added a computer that you had to pull the cord from the phone and drag it across the living room in order to plug it in for that dial-up internet. A lot of you probably don't remember that. There was a calmness, a peace that was in their house. And I remember sitting down with his mom at their dining room table. She would make cookies or brownies or a modest meal, and we would just sit there and she would ask us questions. There was no agenda, and it seemed as though we could sit there for hours. They ran their house on a different rhythm than my house. See, my house growing up, it was always busy. I had 4 siblings, sometimes foster siblings. Then there were those 6 or so daycare kids that my mom watched all growing up. Our house always had movement and activity in it. My mom was always going, always doing something, and always wanted us to be doing something. And although I loved her, she didn't really sit down with us and ask us questions and just hang out with us. See, I love my family. I love my parents, my upbringing. But I realized in about high school that not every family was like mine. And by the way, my family wasn't perfect. As kids, we tend to see our parents as superheroes. That we think our families are great. And at least what we see in our family, this is just normal, right? That everyone must live like this. But then something happens and it changes. It's about the age that you are right now. It's the moment when we realize our family isn't perfect. Or we realize that our family is broken. Now, some of you realized this a long time ago. You're like, Pastor Ben, my family's been broken. I knew that when I was little. And some of you, your earliest memories have to do with pain because your family is so broken. Others of you, you discovered it a lot later like I did. It was in middle school or high school. And in those early years, you realized that your family had a little dysfunction or a lot of dysfunction. And listen, my family isn't perfect. Even the one I'm raising right now, we're not perfect. It became more obvious to me when I was a sophomore and junior in high school. My parents, I thought, had a pretty good relationship in their marriage until I realized they didn't. They had a lot of problems too. And my dad's health was really failing at this point. My younger brother was causing a lot of problems in our house, and there was some dysfunction. So every one of us could probably go around and tell a lot of versions of our dysfunction, of our family story. Maybe your family, it lives with constant tension. Like what you see. Constant tension. You don't slam doors. You're not hitting each other or pushing each other, but there's a constant tension and feeling of anxiety. You feel it when your parents talk about money or jobs, or you feel it with your younger brother or step sibling. You feel it in certain subjects that cause conflict, and somehow it causes like more pain to talk about things, and it makes you feel in your house pretty stressful. For some of you, maybe you've discovered that your family lives with a lot of secrets. You never really saw it when you were younger, but now you do. Maybe you've discovered some things that you wish you never knew about your family, a legal problem, bad decisions that were made by parents or grandparents. And now, because of those secrets, you wonder if you can fully trust your family anymore. And for a lot of you, your family has experienced a fracture, a literal fracture. Maybe it was a divorce with your parents, or divorce, maybe even after a remarriage, and you thought the drama was over and things would be fine. And you realize they're not. There's a new normal with your family. Now you wonder if your family relationships are even worth the effort that you can go through. But regardless of your family story, it's important to remember this, that every family is fractured. There is no pain like family pain. For real. I think a lot of us know deep down that we should be better, and our family should be happier and more forgiving. And in our minds, we have this picture of an ideal family. The one that we wish we had, but we don't really have the ideal family. We have a real family. And the distance between our ideal family and our real family seems to be getting wider, and then it causes us a lot of pain. And that's typically when we respond in one of two ways. We either count our family out, or we count ourselves out. And because of that, We tend to think that our secrets, our tensions, our fractures, that they're written in permanent ink, that we can't get rid of the tension and fractures. Maybe you count your family out. You put a big retraction over your family because of all the things they've done. Your parents have been divorced. You thought they've lost all the authority in your life, so you like retract them out. And you decided that your stepmom or your older brother, they're not a good role model anymore, so you're just not going to listen to them anymore. You decided to shut out your siblings because of something they did or they said. Whatever the reason, we use our family members' mistakes as a reason or excuse to not listen to them anymore, and we don't include them in our lives. We say things like, man, I don't have to listen to you, or I don't have to be in a relationship with you because of what you said or what you didn't do. Or we count ourselves out. We just cut ourselves out of the equation. We isolate ourselves. We go in our rooms, pretend like things don't exist. We think, hey, I'm just done with dad when I'm older, or I'm done with them nagging me. I can't wait to get out of this house. My family is a bunch of hypocrites, so I'm just done. I can't count the days, till I finally get out. And all of us have probably felt the pull away from our family at times. And we probably know it's not the best idea. But what's the alternative? Like, what else are we supposed to do? Shouldn't our parents be the ones fixing this problem, not us? And here's the good news. God has a long history of using dysfunctional families. There's a lot of them recorded in the Bible. It's kind of a prerequisite to being used by God. And one of the most famous people in the Bible, father of faith over here, is a man named Abraham. God promised Abraham that he's going to be the father of a great nation, and eventually Jesus, who would be the savior of the world, would come from his family line. But before this great nation was formed, Abraham had to have a kid. He was kind of old, How was he going to do that? His wife was really old. That's when the family drama really starts, because Abraham gets a little impatient. He takes the servant, his wife's servant girl, and thinks that that's going to be the way God provides. He has a child with them, with this servant and Hagar. And then, he finally has a son named Isaac with his wife. And there's family drama. He has to kick the servant, Ishmael and Hagar, out of the house. And that creates a whole lot of drama. And then finally, Isaac grows up. He has two kids of his own, Jacob and Esau. Esau being the oldest. Esau, the older. He was the hunter, the warrior. He was a man of action. He was a tough guy. And then you had Jacob, the younger brother, who was more of an artist. He was a thinker, a poet. He stayed at home, did some cooking. But he was also a liar and a con artist. Okay, you got to remember that. And so the stage was set from really before Isaac was really born and Jacob and Esau were born. The stage was set for some dysfunction. The oldest brother, Esau, he was going to inherit the birthright. Now, the birthright, according to customs of the time, means that he would receive a special privilege that the other children didn't get. He would receive double the amount of money. He would become the leader of the entire family and the tribe. And biggest of all, he would get his dad's blessing. And this meant that he would be blessed by God himself. So needless to say, birthrights were a pretty big deal. One day, Esau was out hunting, and he arrived home hungry, famished. I can't imagine this kind of hunger, but it must have been bad. It's that moment when you're ready to crush a pizza. Like, you get the entire thing, and you're like, I can eat and crush this whole pizza. He comes home, he smells some of Jacob's cooking. And he asked his little bro for a bowl of stew. That's when things go sideways for Esau. Check it out here in Genesis chapter 25. The boys grew up, and Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country, while Jacob was content to stay at home among the tents. Isaac had a taste for wild game and loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. That's his mom. Once, when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country, famished. He said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew." "I'm famished," Jacob replied. "First, sell me your birthright." "Look, I'm about to die," Esau said. "What good is the birthright to me?" But Jacob said, "Swear to me first." So he swore an oath to him, selling his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew. He ate and drank, got up, and left. So Esau despised his birthright. This is a classic, like older, younger sibling rivalry drama, right? The Bible describes this kind of rivalry in ancient times, but most of us, we've seen versions of this sibling rivalry. Dysfunction has always been a thing. Family drama, it's always been a thing. Fast forward now, Isaac is dying, all right? And Jacob did in fact get the birthright. He kind of did some conning and, deceit for the birthright with his dad, but this is what it meant for Esau. In response, Esau got so bitter, so angry, that he decided the only course of action was he was going to kill Jacob, his younger bro. When Jacob learned this, of course, he runs away, and, he has no plans of sticking around and no plans of coming back. Despite all of that, Jesus came from this family. Despite all of that, despite all of the dysfunction, God knew their mess and saw how fractured they were. But he didn't run away from them. He used them anyway. I hope you hear me in that. Not only did God use this family, thousands of years down the road in the book of Hebrews, the New Testament records Jacob and Esau as a celebration of faith. Wait, what? This dysfunction, this family drama is a celebration of faith? I don't understand. But their story becomes a part of the lineage of a people and families that God would show what his kingdom is like. It says in Hebrews 11, by faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau in regard to their future. And here's what's amazing about this. The writer of Hebrews obviously isn't celebrating the dysfunction of the family. No. They aren't being held up as this model to follow, like we need to follow this family and do everything that they do, right? With lying, deceit, threats of violence. They're mentioned to draw attention to who God is. Now get this, real life. A God who can take any dysfunction from any family and bring good out of it. There's no family story that can't be rewritten. There's no family situation that God can't ultimately use for good. From God's perspective, there's no family you can count out. And there's no person in a family you can count out. There's no family you can count out. There's no person in a family you can count out. God is never done. The story of Jacob and Esau tells us that even in the worst family moments, a family's story isn't over. Even if we can't see it right now and we don't know what the future is going to bring, we can trust that God has a plan. But what if we all went home and treated our family like it mattered? Treated it like these tensions, secrets, and fractures, they're not written in permanent ink anymore. What would change if instead of thinking of ourselves and our families as written in dry erase marker, we thought of our families as being written in permanent marker? What if we started believing that God could use us even in our dysfunction? I know it seems impossible, and that's why we go to small groups, to give each other ideas, to talk about family, and to practically implement what we're talking about. See, real life here is a family. And when you get together in your small group, that's a family of healthy, biblical, godly relationships. Sure, you can have, family and relationships outside of this place, but when you come to real life, when you come to church, this is a place where we build healthy, godly relationships. They're different, and we can discuss what it looks like to implement all of what we learn about God, because your family matters even when it's fractured. Now let's head to our small groups. Thanks for coming.